Thank you. Thank you very much, Melanie, and thank you very much for the invitation and for this opportunity. I wish that everybody is doing well and is safe in these very, very difficult circumstances. First of all, I would like to set the context. So why a presentation on sport and human rights while we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, while we're talking about sports contribution to the SDGs and sports contribution to peace? You will hear excellent presentations afterwards on the contribution that sport can make to peace. But what I would like to highlight here is that human rights play a critical role when it comes to the achievement of the SDGs. Human rights lie at the core of the Sustainable Development Agenda. Basically, the agenda clearly states that no one should be left behind. So development can be achieved only if human rights are respected. The 2030 Agenda really relies on human rights and principles like universality, inclusiveness, equality, non-discrimination. They're all at the core of this agenda. The whole United Nations systems actually puts human rights at its core. If you look at the UN Charter, you will see that the four key pillars are rule of law, which is of course very important, development, peace, and human rights, and states pretty clearly that these four pillars are all interconnected, and you cannot fully achieve one without achieving all of them. So what I will be doing here, I will be sharing a perspective from human rights and explain why human rights matter to sport. So next part of my presentation will be less theoric and more focused on practice. And I would like to deliver three key messages. First, why human rights matter to sport. Second, what is the Center for Sport and Human Rights? Why was it established? And how can the center help navigate human rights issues in sport? These are the objectives of my presentation. So we can start. We all know that sport can inspire, can unite people, and reinforce values. We are all aware of the positive contribution of sport. Like any other activity, sport may also have negative impacts. And some examples, are in the news. We're hearing about athletes and young children being abused by coaches and other people that are basically taking advantage of their position. We know that there may be human rights issues in the supply chain in the preparation of mega sporting events. We know there may be issues with migrant workers, with child labor, with forced labor. We know that police brutality may occur in the context of events. We know that athletes may be discriminated. We know that racism is a big problem, such as discrimination of women, girls, and another big issue is the lack of access to effective remedy for those who are suffering an abuse. This is a list of examples, and we know this abuse may occur in the context of events. It may occur in the context of what we call day-to-day sport, which is, elite and grassroots sport. And we have identified those who can be affected by these negative impacts. We have workers, volunteers, fans, athletes, communities, journalists, and those who peacefully demonstrate for peace and other important social issues. It is a complex context. It is challenging. And the difficult thing is also understand what are the responsibilities of the different actors involved in the world of sport. Well, there are some good news. The good news is that there is a framework based on internationally recognized human rights that can help sport organizations and other stakeholders understand what their role is, what the role they can play, and what should the others do. The other great news is that there is a sport and human rights movement that is gaining momentum. More and more organizations representing different stakeholder groups are more and more involved in this area. The last very good news is that a Center for Sport and Human Rights has been established in 2018 and is working with all the different stakeholders to work towards a world of sport that fully respects human rights. And we're seeing many, many encouraging steps that have been taken, for example, by some federations who are embedding human rights principles or policies, who are considering, some of them have already included human rights considerations when it comes to bidding and to awarding of mega sporting events. And we know that this is a trend that is growing. The Center for Sport and Human Rights has been established to support all these entities. Who are we? This is our management: Mary Robinson, former Prime Minister of Ireland, former High Commissioner for Human Rights, currently chair of the Elders. And our CEO, Mary Harvey, former Olympian, FIFA World Cup winner, and manager in working with various international sport federations. She knows what sport is about, and she's leading us on this effort. Then we have a network. We have a big network of advisory council members that are joining and have joined the center: sport federations, sponsors, broadcasters, governments, NGOs and civil society, and also international organizations. And the last one that joined is UN Women, that joined just yesterday. What do we do as a Center for Sport and Human Rights? We create a safe space for engaging and mobilize the actors that can make a difference in the world of sport. And we work together with them, and we engage all stakeholders, in particular affected groups and those who don't have a voice. And we work together through collective action to address human rights challenges. And one thing we have developed are tools to help the different actors navigate the sport and human rights landscape. We are working on tools related to the organization of mega sporting events. It is a tough time for all of us. One tool that we have developed is a tool and a guidance to help respond to the COVID-19 crisis from a human rights perspective. As I mentioned before, Melanie, dialogue is the most important thing. Our flagship annual event, the Sporting Chance Forum, takes place every year. This year, unfortunately, it will not be the case. Last year, we were in Geneva. You may recognize the Human Rights Room 20 at the Palais des Nations. And this is an essential tool and instrument to share knowledge and insights with all people involved in the world of sport. I'm aware of time, so I would like to go ahead, but the last slides basically would like to highlight some examples of the work we're doing. You know that the FIFA 2026 was awarded to a bid including United States, Mexico, and Canada. Something that may be helpful for the audience here is that we're working with cities that would like to host this event, and we're working with them to understand what are the human rights impacts when it comes to children, when it comes to the organization of such an event. What are the measures that cities can take to ensure that participation of children happens in a safe way? And what are the tools, best practice, and guidance that can be used to make this experience unforgettable, as it should be? Last slide. It's a collection of inputs we got from sport federations in the last months. They are contacting us and are asking us, okay, these issues are complex, can you help us? So we're discussing issues like freedom of expression and athlete activism, and we held a webinar at the beginning of July, bringing together sport organizations, athletes, and representatives from civil society to really understand, okay, what is freedom of expression about, and how can this be exercised responsibly in the context of sport? We've been contacted by organizations that are hosting events in areas where there may be human rights impacts and would like to understand how can they mitigate these impacts. We've been contacted by federations that would like to further and continue the excellent work that already exists on athlete abuse and safeguarding and how to make it more effective through stakeholder engagement and collective action. Of course, COVID-19 is a big dilemma and crisis for all of us, so what is the human rights approach to this crisis? And last, more and more sport organizations are also asking us, okay, what does it mean to embed human rights principles in the operations? And what are the consequences? And what should we do to get ready and be prepared for this? I hope that this presentation was informative. I would like to conclude now just with 3 key points. Human rights matter to sport. The Center for Sport and Human Rights is a human rights organization for the world of sport. And the Center for Sport and Human Rights can help all stakeholders navigate human rights issues in sport. Thank you very much, Melanie.
Thank you very much, Guido, for your presentation and for the overview of the activities of your organization.